Howdy, I'm Olivia.
And I'm Julia.
And this is Pop Culture Hives Lows, a podcast where we deep dive into the hive of pop culture. That means we explore our favorites, our least favorites, fandom spaces, recent happenings, and geek out about all things entertainment.
This is a podcast for people who love things as hard as we do.
Mm-hmm. And this week we will be discussing adaptations, the good and the bad.
But before we do that, let's hop right into culture catch-up. Olivia, what happened this week?
Yeah, we were just talking before this about how, we feel like not a lot happened this week, but, simultaneously, I feel like everything happened this week because it was, big things. Not a lot of things, but big things. But I'll start with, some of the smaller stuff. So did you hear about this? The Law and Order, Lost Child
Yes!
thing?
Yeah, I saw this on Twitter.
Mariska Hargitay, who plays Olivia Benson in Law and Order SVU, she was filming an episode for, the 25th season at a park in Manhattan, and this, little girl went up to her and saw her badge and thought she was a real police officer. And I'm like, that is the best thing I have ever heard. I would also go to Mariska Hargitay if I were lost.
So real.
Do you watch Law and Order, or have you watched Law and Order?
No, but I saw that tweet and I was like, that is so funny.
Yeah, I watched Law and Order SVU a long time ago. My dad is a big Law and Order fan, so I watched Law and Order a long time ago, the original, so not SVU. But then I started watching SVU, which is better. But yeah, I love Olivia Benson, as a character. Just a great character in general. But yeah, if I was lost, I would also go straight to Mariska. Yeah, she was carrying the girl and walking her around to help find her family, and she halted filming to go help her find her family, and I'm like,
that's
oh
so cute.
I know. Well, I'll find the video and add it in, but there is a video of her carrying the little girl around and talking to I don't know if this is an actor, if this was just somebody else who was at the park, but talking to somebody, trying to figure out what she can do to help her, and I'm just stop it.
That's so cute.
And
I'm glad she did something as much as she could.
Yeah. Well, there is something that the SVU fans like to say, which is, what would Olivia Benson do? and I'm like, that's exactly it. And Mariska's also talked about how her and Olivia's personalities meld sometimes, because she's been playing her for, is it 25 years if it's 25 seasons?
It's been a long time.
Is the longest running consistent character on a TV show to date. So
jeez.
But the little girl did find her family eventually, and I think
they're
only filming for 25 minutes is what I think it said. So that doesn't matter, but it is she did stop it so that she could find her family, which is so nice. All right, let's move on to the next thing. I saw this all over the day that it happened. Did you see this?
What is it?
AI images thing? Yes. Yeah. So people started noticing in the true crime documentary called What Jennifer Did. I think it's new. That in some of the images, the hands and fingers were weird or mashed together, and there was nostrils missing and stuff, which is all things that happen with AI generated images. So people were did they edit these pictures with AI? And which is weird. If they did. But yeah, I think it was a news website or whatever that noticed it at first, and there were no AI tools that were disclosed in the credits, but the picture does look AI edited. It is weird.
Yeah, because wasn't it like they didn't really have like images of her smiling or something? Or something like because it was like
I don't know. That's what somebody said. But I don't know if that is true because people have been
yeah.
noticing stuff in like the background.
Okay.
The pictures have been weird. Like, like AI can't really generate like art like behind.
Yeah.
There are like weird like things like that where it's like garbled art in the background and like there's a picture where it looks like her like fingers are like meshed together and
Yep.
like yeah. Um but people are like, you got to disclose it in the credits if they did use AI. So for like a while, I don't know, like a couple of days, they didn't say anything. But the executive producer of the documentary came out and said any filmmaker will use different tools like Photoshop and films. The photos of Jennifer are real photos of her. The foreground is exactly her. The background has been anonymized to protect the source. He didn't say anything about AI. He said nothing about AI. So it's like, I don't know, especially for a true crime documentary.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people were saying where they were kind of like cuz I remember this happening around the same time that a movie called Civil War came out with AI postings and
Yeah.
they're like everyone's like what well if it's like they're using it for this when are they going to start using it for like more like real things and then instantly this happened and it just shows like the way people will just let AI slide and I think that's like the yeah. So
Yeah. Yes. It's just, I don't think if they did, this is all alleged, and I guess this was his version, the executive producer's version of being like, we didn't use AI, even though he didn't say that. Like, he didn't even say that.
yeah, it's yeah.
He's like, yes, we edited the picture. It's not what we asked, sir.
Yeah.
We know you edited the picture. I think every documentary does that, especially if there's like pictures of like real people in the background that like don't
Yeah.
part of it or they can't get a hold of them. Then like yeah, you like block it out or whatever. But like I don't know. This. It looks pretty suspicious to me.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's like
go
it's
ahead.
like they literally just asked you, can you confirm or deny that you used AI in this documentary? He's like just going around the question that just it's like that
Yeah.
thing where someone's like they ask you a simple question, they dance around the answer so you kind of know that if you
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
answer the
They were
question
like,
directly.
yeah, they were like, did you use AI to edit the picture? And he said, well, sometimes filmmakers Photoshop. So last Thursday, Mark Zuckerberg made a video discussing Meta AI in like a video. And he was wearing like a chain around his neck or whatever. And people were like, he's like upgraded his style, just like as a joke. And then people were saying that, like people love to like clown on him and stuff because he's a goofy guy. He's just a goofy guy.
Yeah.
And so then somebody took an image from his video and digitally enhanced him with AI with a beard. Made him like look hot. Like look at this picture that I like of him. Like it's insane. And I'm just
Let me
like,
see.
what?
Yeah, it works.
And like the internet like fell for it. And like people were like, oh, is Mark Zuckerberg hot now? And people were like saying things like, that's not Zuckerberg, that's Zuck. And people are like, it's a wonder what a beard can do for a man. And honestly, that's kind of true.
Guys, we can't let Mark Zuckerberg slide. No, please.
Well, because people didn't know that it was like edited. So people thought that was like really him. And the picture's really good, by the way. Like it does not look AI. So I don't know. It's just like really funny that people were like falling over themselves over like AI images of Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh,
I just watched this. I watched this one TikTok where this girl was like, guys, it was fake. So I'm really glad we all acted so super normal about it. Yeah, but I'm like incapable of ever thinking that Mark Zuckerberg will ever be hot. So like even with the image, I was just like, no, guys, remember who this is.
Exactly. Remember the social network, all right, everyone.
Remember the social network. Remember what he did.
See, the only time Mark Zuckerberg will ever be hot is when Jesse Eisenberg plays him, and that is it.
That's it. Remember that, guys, as it was written. All right, let's move on to the two topics I think we'll spend the most time on, which is Torture Poets Department, which is Taylor Swift's 11th studio album. It released on April 19th. It was a surprise double album, and that was a lot for me. As a longtime Taylor Swift fan, I have been a Taylor Swift fan since 2006. So I listen to releases like the minute they come out. So that was the same with this one. I was like having a great time. And then I was like, I should go to sleep. And then I checked Twitter before I go to close my eyes, and everybody's like, she did it! Double album! And I was like, I can't go to sleep now.
Yeah. I just can't. I can't.
And I didn't. I listened to the rest of the songs before I went to
Olivia, no.
Okay. Well, it was just 15, okay? Yeah, as a big, long Taylor Swift fan, my personal thoughts on the album is I like a good lyrical album. I prefer lyrical albums over just like sonically like good albums. I don't know what it is. If a song has good lyrics, I'm going to like it way more than like if a song has great vibes. But that's just like a personal thing for me. My mom is like the exact opposite. she just likes when a song has good vibes, and sometimes she'll listen to lyrics of songs she's known for like years, and she'll be like, I had no idea that it said that. I'm like, you sing it. So like this, I knew I was gonna like this album just because it has poets in the title. So I knew I was gonna like it, and I just love how people were like, this is gonna be like a Joe Alwyn diss track, which is her ex-boyfriend she had for about 6 years, like before she's with who she is with now. And we were like waiting for this. We were like, yes, we get to hear what happened. No. He got like 2 songs. And unfortunately, this was a Maddie Healy diss track. For situationship for I don't know how long, but from our perspective, like a couple of months. So it was like a mainly Maddie Healy diss track. Maddie Healy, they will never make me like you.
Yep.
Awful. I have never liked Maddie Healy, and I chose to ignore when she was dating him. I chose to
ignore him in general.
Yeah.
Be like Lucy Dayus from Boy Genius, who just doesn't talk to him.
And guess what? She may or may not be mentioned in this album, because Taylor actually has a line where she's like, you said to Lucy that you'd kill yourself if I ever leave. And I'm like, what is happening? What is happening? And I'm like, that Lucy? Because that makes sense. If it is. And then we also got a bit of a sprinkle of some Travis Kelce love in there, which I did not expect. I was like, we're not going to get him until next album. But nope, we got 2 songs for him, and they were good. They were good songs, so good for him. One of them was literally just like, my boyfriend made it to the Super Bowl, though, which is very funny. I'm like, I love that for you. honestly, you're happy and okay.
Yeah.
The song sounded good to me. So, but yeah, the album was obviously much more than like the guys she was with. She had a song where she talked about after her breakup with Joe Alwyn being like miserable and like really, really sad, and then having to do the Eras tour and having to act like super happy and like that she's like, so there's like this whole song where it's like super upbeat and she's just like, I'm miserable. It's just awful, but she's like, it's like upbeat. And I'm just like, I love those types of songs. I eat them up every time, anytime that somebody makes a song it's upbeat and just lyrics being like, everything sucks. But yeah, I enjoyed Tortured Poets. Lots of people did not. Whatever. You know,
Yeah.
whatever. Music is different for everybody. Everybody likes different things. So, yeah. But let's move on to what we've all been waiting for, which is Watcher. I love Watcher. I loved Watcher when Ryan and Shane were doing BuzzFeed Unsolved. But Watcher Entertainment, for those who don't know, is sort of like a continuation of BuzzFeed Unsolved, but like separated from BuzzFeed as a company. It is hosted by Ryan Bergara and Shane Madej, and it was also started by those two plus Stephen Lim. And last Friday, they announced that going forward, full seasons of new shows will be available only on a new streaming service. Priced at $5.99 a month or $59.99 a year. Crazy. That's just insane. For those who don't know what kind of shows go on at Watcher, it's like a ghost hunting show, a true crime show, and a history show hosted by puppets. So you're paying $59.99 a year for that, for 3 shows. I don't know. They might be like adding other shows or whatever, but like that's what people come to watch.
Yeah,
I'm not watching the eating shows and stuff that I know that they did. Like I'm watching for those 3, and that's it. This has not gone over well, as you may expect, because like fans online are like livid. Like I'm pretty sure the like to dislike ratio on their video when they announced it, which by the way was called Goodbye YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, I was mad too. But it is insane that they would do this. And I don't know, like people online like to just like place the blame solely on Stephen Lim. That might be true, that might not be true. I don't know. But what I do know is that Stephen Lim is not a very good person. There have been like videos that have resurfaced online of him saying some racist remarks, him saying that he has racist friends during the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. So that's rough. Yeah, he was like saying, you know how like at the time people were like doing discourse of like different political beliefs, you can be like friends with people, and I'm like, okay, that's different. That's different than being like, I have racist friends. I'm sorry, I can't be friends with racist people. So it's strange that you can. But to each their own, I guess. But, and I also heard, this is just alleged, that he's been super irresponsible with the company's money. And people have also been saying that on WatcherTV.com, which is up, they're doing a show hosted by Stephen Lim where he goes to different countries and eats really expensive food. And I'm like, so you're using money on this show that people are not going to watch. Got it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not watching that. Like,
yeah. And it's
like,
also, it's just also like, because I know that a lot, so I don't watch Dropout TV. I don't know if you do.
mm-mm.
Okay, so I know a lot of people were comparing these two situations to this, but the thing with Dropout, from what I've heard, is that it's a show that literally has like 10 different shows, and they still post contact like content on YouTube. They still like, I think it's also, the streaming service is like cheaper. I think it's like $4 compared to like $5.99, and like it just like it's such a better model than whatever they were planning on doing. And obviously we both watched Smosh, and I think Smosh's idea of having paid stuff is much better, because obviously you're still getting their content, but the extra content is what you pay for, the Patreon and the extra subscriber thing and the live shows and stuff like that. Like that brings in the extra income. If you completely go on a streaming service for $6.99 a month, you're already cutting off your fan base that can't afford that. I remember seeing a tweet where someone was like, I literally watched the end of Ghost Files while I was in line for a food bank. Like, yeah, it's just like I understand YouTube is rough. I understand the YouTube algorithm is the worst. But there's some ways around it that you can find ways to have your audience support you and still have content.
Yeah, like there are so many people who would want to support them that if you set up like a membership thing on YouTube, then I don't know if they had one already and maybe it just wasn't panning out.
I know they had a Patreon, but that's all I remember.
But like I just don't think that this is a smart decision. As somebody who is a fan, I was not paying for that. I was ready to just fully be like, I'll rewatch what they have on YouTube, and that's it, because I'm just that's too much. But there is an update. They did say they listened, which is good. I'll give them that.
Yeah,
I'll give them that. They listened and they sort of fixed it, sort of. They're still going to release content on YouTube, but it's going to be a month after initial release on watchertv.com, which I think is fine. I don't mind watching late stuff, honestly. Like, we talked about last time how, which is Trixie and Katya's show, they go do, I think it's World of Wonder, where they post it. I'm not going there and paying. So
yeah.
I just episodes to come out later, which is fine. And I think that this is like a fine compromise. I just think I don't know why we didn't think about this before.
Yeah,
I would have gone over way better. Like, why did we not think about doing this initially? I don't understand. And yeah, like as I was saying, people were saying that like they think that Stephen Lim is like the mastermind behind all this, and I'm like, but Ryan and Shane are
still agreed to it.
Oh,
yeah, they probably
not the only CEO.
They probably all talked about it and agreed on it.
Like as much as I want to give my boys the benefit of the doubt, it's like, and I don't know how bad the money situation is there. They could have been like stressed out or whatever, but like that's also your guys' fault as CEOs.
Yep.
So like, but people were saying that they have like proof or whatever, allegedly, that Stephen Lim is the one who does all the financial stuff. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. I'm like, I don't really want to give the racists the benefit of the doubt, but like, whatever, you know? They've like rectified the situation, I think, as much as they possibly could right now. And I don't mind watching content late. So, and it seems like fans are like happy that they're like listening.
Yeah.
What I've been seeing on Twitter.
And also, like you said, this came out Friday and it's Monday today that they released the video. So it was a quick turnaround compared to like other things.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because people are also comparing it to the Try Guys situation because it is three guys sitting on a couch.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen this parody, but Jack's Films posted one today where
I
he's
didn't watch
not
it, but
okay.
yes, I did see it. I
Yeah.
saw it like pop up, and I saw the thing said goodbye YouTube, and I was like, oh, Jack.
Yeah, it's literally him like doing the fake announcement and then three guys sitting on a couch. So
That's funny. He's always so good at like doing stuff like that.
yeah.
And staying up on stuff like that. I love Jack's films.
Yeah, me too.
Alrighty. I think we should now discuss made for screen adaptations.
So let's first start off with book to screen adaptations. So we decided to do the best and worst. And Olivia, what is your best book to screen adaptation?
Well, I chose Little Women. Not as the best. Yeah, 2019 Greta Gerwig's version. Not I think before we like start talking about like that like our picks specifically, we should probably like talk about like what we think like a good book to screen adaptation should like have, I guess. Or like yeah, like do you think that like book to screen adaptations need to be like a 1-to-1 of okay.
I think it depends on the media that is being adapted and what it's being adapted to. Because I think there's a difference. Like that's why different mediums and different stories work for those certain mediums. Like probably, like I know this. Like for example, like I'm thinking about the Percy Jackson television show. A lot of the problems that it had was a lot of exposition and explaining, which you can do easily with a book. But in a television show, you have to do it through imagery. And I think that's one of my problems with the show, even though I enjoy the show very much. I think it just depends on stuff. And if the core elements or themes of the book are still intact,
I agree.
Then it's still like if things are changed, but it works within the context, like you'll bring it up with,
that's why I chose Little Women, because there is stuff that has changed, but it feels like Little Women because I've read the book. I love the book, and it's I feel like also with this adaptation, I feel like Greta Gerwig just like knows Louisa May Alcott, who wrote the book, like better than like anybody who's ever done this, who's ever done an adaptation of Little Women. And I have loved every single adaptation of Little Women I have ever watched, and I just love Little Women. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's just I don't know. I just really love it. I really identify with it. I've always identified with Jo growing up, like, and I feel like the way that she was written in this version is just like exactly how I felt about Jo while reading the book, and it just makes me so happy. And I think it's an adaptation that works like perfectly, like you said, without being a 1-to-1 of the source material. I think it's smart. It doesn't get old every time that I watch it. And it hits me emotionally the same places that it did in the book every time, which I think is important for adaptations, for it to hit those emotional points that you felt while you were reading the books. I think that is important to like have the same emotional response.
Yeah, and I think it's also because of how it's structured too, because obviously like there's been a lot of Little Women adaptations, and as much as I'm a huge fan of I think it's the 1994 version. I think what makes this one stand out is that even though it's kind of in a nonlinear storytelling, the way that it's told is so interesting and works so well. And I think that goes to your point with how every emotional thing, like even though like I think you were saying it like as a book fan, like it still like hits you with the film, which I agree with because I also read the book. But I think also because of how the scenes are structured, also helps that emotional like vulnerability, like especially like I should we say spoilers? Because I'm just thinking of specific.
Sure.
Yeah, go watch Little Woman 2019 and go read the book that's been out for like how many years. But I like, for example, like there's the scene where when Beth is first sick and Joe runs down the stairs and she sees Beth alive with her mom and I think the maid or something like that. And then the next scene is her kind of doing the same thing over again and then like Beth is not there. And that's like emotionally hard hitting. I chose Perks of Being a Wallflower as my favorite. Perks of Being a Wallflower, for context, is my favorite book, but also one of my favorite movies. And I think this is one of the films that, like, I think more recently, a lot of authors are going into working on their own adaptations, which is fine. But I feel like because Stephen Chbosky was both a book writer and also a screenwriter, he understood how filmmaking works and how adaptations work, which I think a lot of writers of books don't really get with the adaptationness of it. And I do think, like, obviously it's not a 1-to-1 like ratio. The book has a lot more, but for what the movie is, I think it's one of the perfect like replications of the book. Like an indie film that's done on a budget with these actors. Logan Lerman as Charlie is like amazing. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. I'm still surprised that he hadn't gotten any awards or accolades for that. I know people clown on Emma Watson's accent. Oh, I just realized both of our top picks have Emma Watson in it. I think that's kind of funny.
No, and before this, we were talking about The Bling Ring, which also has Emma Watson in it.
I guess we should do an Emma Watson episode. But like I know people just like go off of her on her accent, but I think she does a really solid performance. And as much as I don't like this person as a human being, Ezra Miller is Patrick
Slade.
What?
Unfortunately, Slade.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was really good in it. Like, unfortunately, but I need to rewatch this movie. You know what? The scene that I think is really funny that everyone has a similar situation with it is the Truth or Dare scene.
Yeah, I was gonna say don't say it.
Yeah, no, I watch this movie with so many people, and every time that scene comes on, I leave the room. Like I'm not watching this.
I can't watch it.
I can't watch it. I can't.
A thought came up last night where it was one of those movie quote ones where it's like, guess the movie by the quote. And I got it by the first one, that it was Perks of Being a Wallflower, but then I was scrolling to see what the other quotes were, and one of them was kiss the prettiest girl in the world.
Oh no!
I was like, I don't even want to see the rest of the quotes. I'm done.
Yeah, no. And also, I think this is also one of the most great depictions of mental health. I think it's done in a way that is like not romanticized, and also it's not like, I know that some people have a problem with it where it's kind of revealed at the end of his trauma like as a plot twist, but I think because he doesn't understand it and he's figuring out, I think that's what makes it not a plot twist, is that you're experiencing it with Charlie, so it's kind of that kind of like you're with him. Also, Paul Rudd is in it, and I recently heard that no one ever quotes "we accept the love we think we deserve" to him, and now anytime if I ever meet Paul Rudd, that is the first thing I'm saying to him. Like, an interviewer was interviewing him for Ghostbusters and was like, does anyone ever like say that quote to you? And he's like, no. And I'm like, that's so sad.
No, he probably gets like Clueless a lot.
Yeah, it's I don't.
Ant-Man. He probably. Although what I'm trying to think about what he would get for like Ant-Man. the orange slices quote. Civil War. What would he get? All right. Let's talk about what makes a bad movie adaptation. Do you want to go with we can like have a conversation. We'll both like say what our things are and then we can have just like a full conversation.
Yeah, I think what makes a really bad adaptation is completely missing the point of the original novel. And like that can go in a certain amount of ways. Like if you take a book and then you make it your own kind of thing and like different themes that you found within the book, I think that's fine. But if you meld it into something that's completely different than what was being established for that book, then we have a problem.
Yeah, like missing the point.
Yes, exactly. I don't know.
I also think sorry.
No, go right ahead.
I also think that when something clearly, when you're reading it, works better as a book, that is also what makes a bad adaptation. And I put a TV show. I did not put a movie.
Okay, I put a movie, but
okay. What is your movie?
This was a hard decision because I was in between two, which I think you can figure out what the other one I was thinking about was. But I chose Chaos Walking.
Okay. Yeah. We talked about Chaos Walking.
Yes. So I'm a huge Chaos Walking fan. I read all 3 books before they started filming because I heard about it because of the movie. And I became a huge...
filming because they were filming for like 4 years.
I know. No, literally, that's another thing. I remember posting that one stupid ass picture for years and years, and that was the only thing is just Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley just standing on that stupid rock.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it the rock?
Yeah, and that's all the Chaos Walking fandom had.
The only reason that I like knew about this is because when they started filming, I was a very big Tom Holland fan, and by the time the movie came out, I was not as big of a Tom Holland fan. So that's how much time.
No, yeah, it was a long ride. But I will say, like, as much as I despise that movie, like, I'm very thankful that it got me into the books because this is like a really good dystopian YA trilogy that delves into feminism, toxic masculinity, how we work in a society, colonization. And it's a lot of interesting things. And also, the whole point is like, I think there's also a problem in book adaptations where they age up the characters when age is so important to the characters. We see that in Percy Jackson with them being kids. And also, I see that as a little bit of a problem in the Hunger Games because the whole point is that they're super young and that's what's devastating. Chaos Walking is a similar thing where it's supposed to be these young kids going through this terrible thing and having to grow up super quickly. And I think just seeing Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland, who are like 24 at the time they were filming this, play 18-year-olds when their characters are supposed to be like 13, just doesn't work. And there's a lot of problems with that movie. They change a lot. They take away a lot. I
didn't read it. And I don't remember the movie, but I know I watched it. But I didn't read Chaos Walking, but I guess I will now that you recommended it.
Yeah, it's also super, like, the book is so interesting for what it is. Because when you open the book, it's, like, different fonts based on, like, different thoughts. And, like, a dog talks, nature talks, there's never silence in this world, which I think is so interesting and a cool kind of thing that could have worked for a film. But they turned it into a sci-fi action film instead.
Yeah, they tend to do that.
Yeah. And they did it, like, obviously, like we said, it took them like 5 years to film. So like the dystopian YA train already left the station.
I chose 13 Reasons Why.
Okay, I am interested to hear about this.
Yeah. So did you read the book?
I did a while ago, so I
Yeah, I was
don't
gonna.
remember much.
Yes,
So
I was gonna say I read it once when I was 14.
yeah, same.
Remember like being at that age and that book like sticking with me, uh because I think because people were like saying we read it in middle school, like in study hall, like as like a big
Yeah.
like, yeah, so we read, I know, weird choice.
I know, that's
Yeah, we read it in study hall. Like she got like the audiobook and we all got our own copies and we did that during study hall, which I think was like a cool experience, honestly, to like do like read it with, because I was 14 and I was like in the class with like a bunch of like between 12 to 14-year olds and we were all reading it slash listening to it. Um, and I think like within that context, I had a very good experience reading it, and I've heard people online say that it's very like accurate in like depictions of depression and like mental health and stuff. And also, and like I said, I think this is just something that worked better as a book. There are many problems with this show, many, but I think it just worked better as a book because in the show they spread this Clay listening to the tapes out. It's like months or something. And I'm like, I'm sorry, no. Like I'm sorry, if I got those tapes, I'm listening to them right away, all of them.
yeah.
Um, and that's in the book. It happens in like one night,
Yeah.
and he's like biking around and he's visiting all the places, which doesn't work very well for like a show. And I'm just like, so why did we make the show? Because now the pacing's weird. The pacing's off. It's weird, and you're telling me to suspend my belief enough to where he is waiting to listen to all the tapes. Like, why would he do that?
And then it go on for 3 more seasons.
Well, the thing is that the first, I'm only going to talk about the first season because
Okay.
the first season is the only thing that actually corresponds with the book.
The book.
The rest of the seasons have nothing to do with the book. Um, Also, I think we are seeing all of this through Hannah's, or reading all of this through Hannah's voice and like Clay's thoughts in the books. And so we're seeing like the outside world from like only those two perspectives. And it's also like Hannah as an unreliable narrator because we're only hearing what she is saying through the tapes. And I think that it's really cool. They almost frame it as like a thriller almost in the books. And in the movie, like all, or in the show, it's like that's all stripped away. We get not really any like suspense. And we're elaborating on characters that, or delving into characters that like did not have very much in the book, which is fine in some circumstances, but in this, when obviously the writers they didn't really put a lot of thought into how these characters were going to be, because most of them are weak. Most to all of them are weak.
Yeah.
I think Clay's okay. And unfortunately he's just okay, and we got most of him in the book. Okay. But yeah, this is just one of those things where it just worked better as a book, so it should not have been made into a show like that. Like a show is crazy, maybe a movie.
Yeah, like yeah.
Nuts. Like it didn't need to be a show, and I don't know if they started out if they wanted to. It was a gimmicky thing. That's why they did it, because they wanted 13 episodes so they could match up with the 13 tapes. That's fine. That's a gimmicky thing or whatever. But it should have been a movie. If they were going to do anything at all, then it should have been a movie. But unfortunately, we got anything at all. I didn't want anything. We didn't need anything.
Yeah, you know? And then I remember also, because I think we probably both were in like high school, or like when the like show came out. I don't know if you remember that.
Came out at 17.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but like I remember it doing a lot more bad than good.
Yeah. Yeah. So the book was written as like a conversation starter. about suicide and mental health. And I think that the book did it okay. I don't think the book did it perfectly, but I think that the book did it okay. And it did get a conversation started. So that's like, fine, whatever. The show, they put an unfortunate scene in the first season and then didn't take it out for like a year.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I was one of the people who witnessed that before.
I did too.
Yeah, and then I watched the second season as well. It was more of like a hate watch though, because I didn't like the first season anyway. Yeah. So it was more of like a hate watch, and they also took out another unfortunate scene from season 2 that happened.
They took okay, that's interesting that they took that out.
I think you probably know what I'm talking about.
I didn't watch the later seasons. So.
Because I think it's just too much. Yeah. It's too much to talk about, let alone me being 17 and witnessing it.
Yeah. You know? And I think they don't do anything to really have a conversation.
It wasn't there for any purpose. Those things, because I don't know if I'm remembering the book correctly, but I don't know if they went into detail about how it was done. Yeah. Or anything like that, because I'm just like, I don't know if it's necessary.
Yeah, it's it's not. And I also remember them reaching out to like mental health specialists, and they were all like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this. And then they did. Yeah. And then they were like, oh, maybe we should have listened to the mental health specialists. And it's like, yeah, exactly. That's why they were there.
I mean, I wanted a gimmicky thing for something that was semi-popular at the time. I don't know how popular it was in 2017 or whenever they were conceptualizing it, but I do know that I know exactly how it went down. They said, we could do this book adaptation. Those are popping off right now. We could make it into a show. We could do 13 episodes for the 13 tapes. And that is as far as their like creative like minds stretched. And then they thought, oh, we can also like market this as like a conversation starter, because remember they were marketing it as like parents and kids can watch this together and like talk. And I'm like, no, like no. So what do you think makes a good game to screen adaptation, and does it differ from book to screen? Like, what makes a good book to screen?
I think it's similar in the way of what I've been saying, where if it worked in a certain medium, there's reasons why it worked in a certain medium. And if you're adapting it into a show or a movie or any other type of medium, obviously you kind of have to work with like outside of it. So especially for a game, a lot of it corresponds with gamer, like the player. So you kind of have to take that out of the game if you're adapting it into something and focusing more on the story and characters. Like I do know with some games, like for the adaptations, they'll just do a completely different story than what is the game, but stay true to what the game was talking about. So that's my personal opinion with game adaptations.
Yeah, I think you kind of, I mean, I don't think this for everything, for like all game to screen. I mean, it's kind of dumb that we're saying game to screen because you are gaming on a screen, but like, you know what I mean.
No,
game to like screen adaptations, I think they fail so often, and I think it's because, like I said with the book thing, maybe some mediums just belong in that medium, and especially with games because they are so interactive. And some of them, like I'm worried about, this is a future thing, but I'm worried about they're doing an Until Dawn movie or something. And I'm like, that scares me because that game is highly interactive. There are like 80 something endings, and you could like kill all of the main characters depending on your choices. And I'm just like, it better be fun. Whatever this is gonna be. It just needs to be fun. But I also think you have to kind of do a tongue-in-cheek thing whenever it comes to video game to screen adaptations. So what did you choose for like your good?
For my good game adaptation, I chose The Last of Us.
Okay. I put that, but I put an alternate, so we can talk about both.
Okay, what was your alternate?
My alternate was FNAF.
I can see it.
but let's talk about Last of Us because we can both talk about it. Because I put that down, but I thought you would also put it down, so that I was like, let me put an alternate in here.
So I didn't play the game, but I watched the walkthroughs of both games. And I think this is like a perfect example of what we've kind of been talking about, is taking the essence of the game and expanding on it more. And when the show was coming out, I listened to a podcast where the creator of the show and the game, and then also hosted by the guy who voiced and played Joel in the video game, would do a roundtable.
Troy Baker, Neil Druckmann, and is Craig Mason on the podcast as well?
Yeah, he is.
Remember. Okay, yeah, because I listened to it as well. So.
Yeah, and I think because I'm a huge fan of this kind of discussion of adaptation and what works, what doesn't work, and it was just so interesting to hear what they all had to say about what changes they made, because I feel like with some, like I've been kind of talking about with book authors, they're very so keen on keeping this specific thing in, and I'm glad that the show of The Last of Us didn't do that.
I mean, I think that Neil Druckmann, who created The Last of Us, he I think he understands better than like some creators who are attached to things that you have to change things upon going into a different medium. Like how they changed from spores to the tendrils, because that was not going to work in the context of like a show.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. It's going to take you out of it because it's not plausible. It's not a thing that can happen and like you can like move on from it. It's the best adaptation period I have ever seen of something. I am a big Last of Us fan. I watched somebody play it in 2013, and in 2014 when the remaster came out, I played it, and I play it at least 3 times a year since 2014. And during like 2020 and actually like last year maybe, I maybe played it like 50 times in the span.
I congratulate you.
I am a big Last of Us fan, and Last of Us Part 2 I've played more because to me it's just more fun. But even though it's not fun, emotionally not fun.
Olivia has called Last of Us Part 2 so much fun. And you can quote, I'm kidding.
Actually, yeah, you can. I'll be honest. I would fight anybody who doesn't like that game. I love that game so much. And yes, I am also talking plot. So
in the game, it's kind of obvious that there's a certain character who's gay, and then for some reason people didn't notice.
Acted like they have no idea. Did you play? Hello?
Yeah, did you play?
And this is coming from somebody who has played like way too many times. So like from my perspective, I'm like, oh, maybe it was just me because I've played this a million times. But I think it's obvious. Like my dad played it for the first time like recently, and he knew. Like it's like, are you just that like blind to anything that is not like heteronormative that you cannot look beyond your perspective?
Yeah. And I know a lot of people were mad about how they adapted that character's ending, but we never see that character again, so I felt like it worked. And it also worked because it made his character more human and like
I also
interesting.
think that through that story, we are understanding Joel more.
Yes.
So it's like, if it's like, it's not a useless, like I've seen a lot of people be like, it's like a throwaway episode, and I'm like, it's very much not. It is so well written and so good, and B, it is literally Joel's story. Like, what? Like, we are literally seeing it just through two different other people. Like, that's like, it's just, it's not useless. It helps you understand Joel more through Bill. Like,
it just works.
Astounds me that people did not like that episode. I thought I was going to go on Twitter, which is just naive of me. I thought I was going to go on Twitter and people would be like, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. And then I went on Twitter and it was mixed reactions, and I was just very disappointed by that.
No, I sobbed.
Oh yeah, rough one. It was rough.
It was rough.
For those who have not seen the last episode, I am going to recommend anything that we talk about today. That is like the first thing I'm going to recommend, whether it be the games or the show.
Yeah,
I recommend highly. But
yeah,
I just want to. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna move on to FNAF, so whatever you were gonna say.
Oh, okay. My friend, to get me into Last of Us, just showed me the scene with the car, just the opening of the game, and like I think that's just what got me into it. And I think obviously they do this scene in the show and they do it their own thing, and it's really cool.
Good. It is so good. The way that they have it, like it is in the show, like with the shot in the back of the car to the, oh my gosh.
It's so good. And it also, like, that's another example of like, yeah, like they are pulling something from the game, but it's not like.
It's different. It's changed in a good way. It's changed for a TV show.
Yeah. And then also, in addition, I think the opening of the show is also really good because it adds the kind of scientific thing and scares the audience in a way of this, because we're in it, like we're in a pandemic, we're still in a pandemic, and it's terrifying to listen to and have like these people be like, yeah, this is gonna happen and we don't know when it's gonna stop.
And and they also changed, I think what's great is that they changed the years.
Yes.
So that it was in the show it's 2013 when it starts, but in the game it's 2013 when it starts. I don't know if I said in the game or if I said in the show, so sorry. But in the show it's 2003, so that when the actual timeline of the show starts, like post the outbreak, it's 2023, which is when the show came out.
Yeah.
So smart. It's so good. It's like changes like that, where it's like you can change it like this and it does not take away from the heart of the story or the plots or anything like that. I also love how they did, we spent more time with Sarah in the beginning than we did, because in the game they force you to care about Sarah because you were playing as Sarah in the beginning, but we don't get that in the show. So instead we'd spend the day with her.
Yes.
And that is such a smart switch. It's so smart. That is how you take something from the game and make it into like a better, like the same, we're having the same emotional attachment to her. Yes.
Yeah.
It's so smart. It's so smart. I love it. Yeah.
Now FNAF.
Now FNAF. So this is going to be kind of silly, goofy. I don't know if we've talked about FNAF on here, but like we want to do a FNAF episode where I teach Julia about FNAF lore, because unfortunately I am stuck within the spring trap or the spring locks of FNAF, and I will never get out. It's truly one of those things where I'm just like, well, I'm already here and I know a stupid amount about it, so I should just stay up to date on the lore and stuff. So, we when okay, so we've been waiting for a very long time for this adaptation. Me, not Julia. I'm not going to include you on this because it's embarrassing.
That's okay. No, you're good.
But in 2014, they were like, all right, well, there's going to be a movie. And then we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And like it's been going around different, it's been like sold to so many different places. And like we're just, at some point, we were just like, it's not happening. and then all of a sudden, we're getting casting announcements, and it's Matthew Lillard and Josh Hutcherson. Insane. But I just think, like, I'm prefacing what I'm about to talk about with adaptations with this because it means a lot to people. FNAF is silly stupid, but it does mean a lot to people. And even like me, who's just kind of like, whatever about FNAF. Like, I'm a fan, but I'm also like this. I am fully aware that this is the dumbest thing ever. Was like, they better not screw it up. Like, I remember being like, they cannot screw this up. And I think every single person who worked on that movie knew that. I think they went in knowing like, we can't mess this up, guys. Because like, and honestly, you have to know with this specifically, you have to know how to ride the line between fun, stupid, scary movie for like normal audiences to enjoy and something super enjoyable and meaningful and having Easter eggs for like fans. And I can't speak for everybody because some people hated this movie, and it's mainly people who like who have known nothing about FNAF, didn't like it. I know 2 people in my life who know nothing about FNAF who was just like, it was a fun movie. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's a fun movie. Especially for something like FNAF where we do not have a solid lore tied down. I think that they did something smart where they switched it up, they changed it up, because we don't have rant. So what did you choose for bad?
So here's the thing, is that when I was talking to my friend who plays video games, I was like, yeah, I'm trying to go with video games that like video game movies that I've watched and I know a little bit about the video game. I will say for my answer, there are definitely worse ones, but I'm going with like familiar things.
Okay.
I chose Sonic 2.
Okay. I only watched the first one.
That's what many people did. And that's a good decision.
Okay. It's usually on the good list, that not the second one, but the first one.
The first one, yeah. So I played Sonic in my orthodontist office when I was a kid, so I like to say that I know a little bit about Sonic.
I used to have so on the Wii, they used to have these games that were like, it was Sega Genesis, an arcade. So, and I used to play Sonic on that. So that's my extent of Sonic.
No, yeah, I used to play Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, and that was also my extent of like Sonic knowledge. But I think one night I just decided to watch the first one and I cried. So, and then I edited Sonic to "You're on Your Own, Kid" by Taylor Swift.
And, oh my god!
And everyone was like,
"You need to see this."
Okay,
you have to see that.
I will. It was really funny because yeah, and I wrote a review where I was like, "Yeah, I cried at this movie," and my friend commented and said, "You cried to Sonic?" And I think this, like, because I think this is also an example of a Sonic one, of a movie where there was a lot of backlash, and then they listened and then changed it. And I think they also did it in a way, hopefully they didn't overwork the animators. I'm not sure. Please don't overwork your animators. We don't support that. But it was a fun movie. It knew what it was. it had James Marsden with an animated character in it. This is like his third time doing that. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
And like the guy who voices Sonic,
Ben Schwartz, my boy. I'm literally the biggest Ben Schwartz nerd ever. I think I'd cry if I met him. Like,
that's so real. I think he's so funny. I think it's great. He does such a great job. And like also the whole point of the movie is that like Sonic is trying to find a family, and like obviously like the human parts of like whenever they put humans in like a cartoon or video game movie, sometimes it doesn't work. And like this doesn't work the best, but I think because both of those plot lines kind of intertwine, it works better for this film. The second one does this thing where there's two completely different plot points that they're trying to intersect and it doesn't work. There's like essentially like James Marsden and his girlfriend go to a wedding, and then Sonic finds Tails, and that's the plot of the movie. It's so weird. And I think they just did not use to their advantage, because like the best parts of this movie is like Sonic and Tails and Knuckles. And there's this interesting thing with Knuckles and Sonic and how they view the world differently. And they never really go there. And it's like, guys, this is the material you have, and we're focusing on James Marsden in a talks. No, why? So like I think just I don't like it because of the potential it had. But I will say, super excited for Sonic 3. Super excited for Sonic 3. What is your worst? I kind of want to hear this.
Okay, so my worst is Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time.
Oh my god, I forgot that movie existed.
In 2010, I did play. I played Prince of Persia. I played one on Nintendo DS. Whatever one that one. So I think that the glaring problem here that you can see from the poster is that holy whitewashing. Wow. It's honestly astounding that they got away with that. That is insane to me. You couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. It couldn't cast anybody that was Persian. Like, whoa. And then it has also, I think, from what I've heard, because I did have to do a little bit of research because I only played one of the games. It has nothing to do with the games, which is insane. That movie has a messy plot. It looks bad, like aesthetically, which I think is what happened, is that they tried to jam in as much Prince of Persia like game aesthetics and like Easter eggs and jam it in, but it felt so far removed, like plot wise, from the games that it felt like they were on a set rather than like living in like a passable real environment, which kind of sucks because the environment is kind of like a big part of that game. But yeah, it is just a bad movie. But apart from it being a bad movie, it is a bad adaptation, because what they did is they just chose something that was popular at the time, and then they were like, let's make a movie. And then they made a movie, and then it's like they'd never played the games. They said, so what are his powers? And then they looked that up online, and then they were like, okay, so what does it look like?
Just Googling it.
That's all they did. Like we were talking about before, when you lose the point, that is when an adaptation becomes bad. And the point isn't even in the vicinity.
It's far away.
Over there. And I just feel so bad that like those games are now going to have to be associated with the 2010 whitewashed, horrible plot, bad movie version of Prince of Persia. Sands of Time is what the movie is.
Yeah.
What do you think makes a good animation? Because I do think it's different.
I do think it's different. I think it's a different thing because I think animation is a more similar medium, because animation can be used in television and movies, and I think a lot of people don't understand or put animation on a level, and I think sometimes people don't realize the reason why it's animated is because it's the best format that it can be.
Yes.
And I think that's the difference between what we've been talking about and animation versus to live action adaptations, is because like there's a reason why that it's in this type of format. And
yes. It's hard to do. It's hard for certain things. I'm not going to say for all, because there are good ones, but I think it's hard to cross those mediums specifically, because when it's made for animation, it is literally, that's the best way you can do a landscape. That's the best way you can do a movement of a character, or the best way you can do the design of a character. And you can't really replicate that to live action in some forms. I think that there's
I think it depends on how they take it and put it. And like, for example, this was like another alternate one that I was going to choose for the best one. But like, for example, like the live action Cinderella, that's an adaptation of the Disney version. Like they change a lot of it to make it fit within that film that was different than the animated version.
Is that the one with Lily James?
Yeah.
Is it that one? Okay.
Yeah. That's the first one I thought too, because one of the YouTube channels I watched recently did a commentary on it. So that's just kind of the first thought I went to with that one. But like, sometimes
I just don't remember. So I saw it and I don't.
No,
remember.
it's okay.
My sister had her like dress because she was little when it came out. So my sister had her like dress.
But that's what But I think we both agree that because animation is animation, and there's a reason. Like, for example, like I always bring up this quote when Disney announces their like 25th like live action.
Oh God, please make it stop.
Please make it stop. Howard Ashman, who is the reason why the Disney Renaissance happened, said he was originally, they brought him in to do more live action stuff for Disney, and he said, no, I connected more with animation because musicals and animation work well together. And that's why a lot of those movies in the Disney Renaissance work as animation. And I'm not saying that some of those live action adaptations of them are terrible, but I think some of them are missing the point of why they were animated. Anyway.
Yeah. Lion King.
Oh yeah. Lion King was almost my worst one.
Oh, it was almost mine too. It was
I was like, should I do one that I've what?
I think we have the same bad
one. We do have the same bad one. But let's do I want to hear what your best animated live action is, because I'm interested.
Yeah, mine is Scooby-Doo.
Oh, mine is too!
No way!
Well, I said Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, but it still works.
We can talk about both, because I said the first one.
So this works!
This works. That is crazy.
That is so crazy.
Bad. Great, so we can talk about it. Yeah, so I'm a big Scooby-Doo cartoon fan.
I am too.
I was little. I used to have a VHS tape that had like 3 or 4 episodes of Scooby-Doo on it, and I used to watch them over and over and over. I loved it. And then, sorry if you heard that. My roommate just screamed really loud. She's on the phone, so she's okay. But that was funny. But I just think, I don't know, like it's one of those things where it's like it's proof, it's another form of like proof that you don't need to do a one-to-one remake of something. You just need to have the source material, and you need to understand what the heart and the themes of the medium is in order to do a good adaptation. And they did so good. And the cast.
Yes, that was one of the main reasons why I put this down for best like animated to live action, because the casting is absolutely like everyone, no matter even if they don't like the Scooby-Doo live actions, they will always say still
that who doesn't like the Scooby-Doo.
I don't know, but like some people don't, but they will still say that this is probably one of the best casted things ever.
For those who don't know don't know the cast, it's Sarah Michelle Gellar as Daphne, Matthew Lillard, who we're talking about twice now, Matthew Lillard as Shaggy, Freddie Prinze Jr. as Fred, and Linda Cardellini as Velma. Just so good.
Yeah, and I it's so good. I also want to add, because I'm also a huge Scooby-Doo fan. Like after this movie, Matthew Lillard went on to voice Shaggy for every Scooby-Doo project like ever.
Yeah.
So like that.
Well, he loves.
Yeah,
he loves playing Shaggy. I love him.
Yeah, me too. Have you seen? This was a TikTok. I should have sent it to you. He said, "I always come back," which is a big line from FNAF, but in the Shaggy voice.
I feel like I might have seen that, but oh my gosh.
But I
love that.
And I think I'm gonna add this to kind of what you were talking about with the theme. I feel like Scooby-Doo has kind of became not a parody of itself, but kind of looking at the old tropes that were in the original cartoon.
Yeah.
And a lot of the series that follow after Scooby-Doo, like the original, do that. And I think that's what also the original film does. And I think they do it well. Obviously, if you don't know, the people listening, this movie was originally supposed to be a like full-on satire, rated R, raunchy film, and then they decided to not allow them to do it. And I think even though it was really cut down and the actors signed up for that original version and Daphne and Velma could have kissed, I still think we could have had it all. I still think this is a fun and respected.
So
yeah, it's so much fun. It's great. I watch these so much. I love them.
I wish where
I think they're on HBO Max. The last time I looked at them, they were on HBO Max.
Maybe I'll watch one.
Yeah.
But no, I'm gonna play Stardew Valley. Actually, I need to. Me saying my plans out loud, or else I'll forget. But yeah, I just remember watching these over and over, like on a loop as a kid.
I did too.
I had VHS of these movies as well. But oh my gosh, I loved them. And like the thing is like I was 2 when the first one came out, so like obviously I wasn't watching. It's not like I was like waiting in anticipation or anything. Like no, I was watching the cartoon and these movies like at the same time, pretty much. So I can't speak for like people who were like waiting for this or whatever, but like I don't know. I feel like as somebody who's like a fan of the cartoon still, and like of some of the movies, in the like the cartoon movies,
yes,
then I also I think it's great. I go ahead.
Do you know about the Tim Curry thing?
I don't think so.
Okay, so he was originally supposed to be in the first live action Scooby-Doo movie, but
as who?
I think he was supposed to be the guy who owns the amusement park.
Oh, okay.
And then he found out Scrappy-Doo was the villain. And he despises Scrappy-Doo. So he left the project. because he hated Scrappy-Doo so much.
That's valid.
But I think that's so funny.
That's valid. That is so valid as a Scrappy-Doo hater myself. You were going to talk about the second one, though.
Yeah, I think I watched the first one more than the second one because I think I only had the first one on DVD. But the second one, I feel like, does everything that I think the first one does really well to an extent. And also, I think with this one, since they knew going into it, it wasn't going to be a rated R satirization of it, I think they could use that to their advantage. And I also think it's interesting that they bring in Coolsville and kind of, not the lore of Scooby-Doo, because there's not a lot of the lore of Scooby-Doo and like where they grew up and like how that was made, and kind of, I think that's just really interesting. Also, this movie has a line like, I think Coolsville sucks, and I think that is the greatest line in cinema history. And I do also like that there's like some hidden, I think in both films they hide them well, like different kinds of like kind of adult jokes, like Shaggy's like sorry.
That I was gonna actually like say that too, that like, I mean, like Mary Jane.
Yes, exactly. Mary Jane, in the first one. There's also like when they pull out the van in the first one and there's smoke and they're making burgers. Yeah. And I also like that also, because I'm a huge Shaggy fan. But like they kept that he was vegetarian because the original voice actor wanted to keep Shaggy vegetarian, so like Matthew Lillard like made sure to do like a veggie burger and stuff like that. Anyway, the second one is also because Shaggy's fans are a bunch of stoners. And as I'm recently doing a project on Scooby-Doo in class, talking about like the different series, and I was talking about a pup named Scooby-Doo, which is just them as kids.
That was what I was going to talk about, because I love a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Love a pup named Scooby-Doo. I was going on this whole rant to my partner because I had mentioned a pup named Scooby-Doo, and he's like, what, is that just a show where they're kids? And I'm like, no, there's more to a pup named Scooby-Doo. Like, it's actually, that's what I think is so cool about Scooby-Doo, is that at least from what the shows that I've watched and the movies I've watched of Scooby-Doo, they're all freaking hilarious. Like, they're all like comedic gold.
So let's move on to our bad adaptations of live action. They're the same thing, I think, and it is mine. We're gonna see. They're the same. Is The Last Airbender, M. Night Shyamalan's version.
Are you the Avatar Ong? I brought cute Appa with me.
Cute.
He doesn't look like a demon like he does in the live action, so. He looks like Ian from Smosh with that haircut.
The note.
Sorry. Go on.
The note that I put is, everything was bad about this except Dave Patel.
So real. So real.
I mean, I don't like him as Zuko, but like, we love him.
I think it would be really interesting if years later, Dave Patel somehow, I think I would only allow him referenced in some kind of Avatar media. I think I would only allow him.
Love him here. We love Dev Patel here.
Yeah.
But yeah, just bad. I don't know how you mess it up that bad. Why were we changing pronunciations of names? Why were we whitewashing, which is something that we talked about with Prince of Persia. Oh my gosh, it's bad in this movie. Like, it's really bad. They butcher it to a point to where it is like, it's unwatchable.
Yeah.
It's unwatchable. I've seen this movie once and I can't get it out of my head as much as I want to.
I've never seen it. And that's what I was originally going to put, I think we mentioned it, I was originally going to put Lion King, but then I was talking to my friend and I was like, but I like the reason why I haven't seen Avatar, the movie, is because it's so awful. And it's also like considered one of the worst movies of all time. Like not even just like adaptation. No. It's also considered one of the worst movies of all time. But you were saying
it's
something.
Just that. Yeah, what I don't know, there has to be some sort of backstory to why M. Night Shyamalan did this. I don't, but I can't imagine sitting in a room and having a conversation and being like, who can we get to direct this? And choosing M. Night Shyamalan. That's like a weird choice, right?
Yeah.
Like, for an Avatar movie specifically, that is a weird choice. Unless I just don't know some sort of lore or behind the scenes situation to how he's involved or how he got involved. But like, woof. like, whoa. Like, I was so excited too. And that is what is so sad. 10-year-old me went to that movie.
No.
10-year-old me went to that movie theater so excited. And I walked out like, what was that? They butchered everything. Like, I literally remember being sad. Like, I was like, they ruined everything. and you know, when you're like 10, you're like, well, that's what it is now. So like my brain when I was 10, I was like, this is what Avatar is now. So it was so sad. So yeah, so for it's just a really horrible, and it looks bad too.
It looks so ugly. Like the color grading
is an ugly looking movie, and that's just so unfortunate. And it's so sad that Dev Patel has this on his filmography. Release my boy.
Release.
Just block his name out on Google whenever you look up the cast for this movie, so that we do not have to. He doesn't deserve this. Oh my gosh.
So. I also just love telling people that the guy who plays Jasper from Twilight is Sokka, and then being like, what? And I'm like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, Sokka. I think you mean Sokka, you know? Everyone's favorite character.
Oh my god. Hey, at least it's... No, well, okay, I was gonna make a joke about the new live action, because there's a part in it where Sokka says, my name is Sokka, rhymes with Akka, and Waka Waka. And that's like my favorite thing to say is Waka Waka. So I'm mad that live action Sokka stole my catchphrase.
Well, what have we learned? Adaptations can be good, can be possible, because I do hear the arguments that like it shouldn't really be made, and I'm always like, I don't know about that. I think there are some really good ones. There are a lot of bad ones, but there are like gems in the sea of bad.
Yes.
And there are even some that some people consider better than the books or the video games or the animation or whatever it is. Yeah, I think that there's a way to do it. And as we said before, just keeping the heart and the theme, I think is the biggest thing. You don't need to have a one-to-one.
Agreed.
We don't need to have a recreation of every single scene. It just needs to have the core values of the story without ruining the characters. Agreed. I think that's also the biggest thing. Yeah. Ruining of characters happens way too often in adaptations.
Yeah.
So I think it's safe to say we can wrap that episode up there. So, hey, please let us know which adaptations you believe are the best or the worst in the comments.
Yeah.
And
yeah, please do. I know there's going to be some catching fires down in the chats. Agree with that. Thank you for listening to us ramble this week. Please follow us on Zhive Media on all social media platforms, and also give us a follow on our personal socials as well. And all those links will be in the description.
Yeah, so we'll see y'all next week. Until then, we've been Pop Culture Hives Lows.